Thank you for visiting Elcometer Education Institute's website and for your interest in ISO DIS 19011-2025 Key Updates webinar. We are happy to share our knowledge of the upcoming changes and updates as defined in the draft ISO 19011-2025 requirements. Just a reminder, this webinar is based on the draft. The voting and comment process for this draft will be complete in June 2025, and the final draft, known as the FDIS, is expected to be released by September of 2025. Please check back on Elcometer Education Institute's website for updates regarding the release of the final draft. If you have any further questions regarding the content of this webinar, please contact us by email at training@elcometeredu.com or call us at 248-650-0500. Now let's begin the review. Elcometer Education Institute is a division of Elcometer. For more than 70 years, Elcometer has been a world leader in design, manufacture, and supply of inspection equipment to the coatings, concrete, and non-destruct testing industries. In 2018, Elcometer expanded its product range to include the design and manufacture of high-performance abrasive blast equipment. In 2019, Elcometer expanded its services to include exemplar global certified ISO standard courses, including internal and lead auditor for various standards, such as ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, and 17025. Today, we're happy to present this webinar to share our review of the 19011-2025 draft so that you may prepare for implementing the new internal and external audit requirements into your audit program. ISO DIS 19011-2025 is currently in draft form with the expected publication of the FDIS in 2025. Again, the final voting on this DIS is scheduled for June of 2025. This webinar will point to some of the expected changes to the ISO 19011-2025 standard as noted in the DIS or the draft. This will help your organization prepare to implement the upcoming changes. The contents to be covered in this webinar include the changes, the comparison of ISO 19011-2025 with the current standard 19011-2018. The additions to the forward of ISO 19011-2025, changes to the terms and definitions, changes to the principles of auditing that are found in Clause 4, changes to managing the audit program that are covered in Clause 5, conducting an audit, the planned additions in Clause 6, competence and evaluation of auditors, the planned additions to Clause 7, and Annex A, the additions to the guidance for auditors for planning and conducting audits. ISO 19011-2025 introduction states that since the publication of the 2018 standard, a need to consider a broader approach to management system auditing and provide a more generic guidance was identified. ISO DIS 19011 provides guidance that can be applied to an audit, a range of audit criteria separately or in combination with other management systems, including requirements for auditing one or more management system standards, policies, processes, and requirements specified by the organization or other relevant parties, statutory and regulatory requirements, management system plan of specific management system results, such as quality plans, project plans. ISO DIS 19011-2025 standard concentrates on internal audits, which are considered first party, and audits conducted by organizations and their external provider management systems and other interested parties conducting audits, which is known as second party of management systems. 19,011-2025 states, quote, "This document can be useful for external audits conducted for purposes other than third-party certification audits," end of quote. Although it's not clear what the intent of this statement is, hopefully the ISO FDIS, the final draft, will provide more clear guidance as to the applicability of these requirements to third-party certification audits. Now let's do a comparison of some of the significant changes of ISO DIS 19011-2025 and how it relates to ISO 19011-2018. So we're going to begin with the changes to remote auditing methods in ISO 19011-2025. The 2025 version has been expanded through the introduction of the guidance contained in ISO IEC TS 17012 Conformity Assessment. This is a guideline for the use of remote audit methods in auditing management systems. Annex A16 in the ISO DIS 19011-2025 version includes more guidance for auditing virtual locations and for using remote auditing techniques. Compared to 19,011-2018, remote audits and virtual audits were mentioned, but it lacked the depth and the structure that is now defined in the 2025 version. Climate change. The 2025 revision introduces climate change as a factor to be considered when assessing an organization's understanding of and response to internal and external issues relevant to its context. In support of this, the International Organization for Standardization, known as ISO, released the 2024 Climate Action Amendment to incorporate climate-related considerations into various management system standards. This amendment impacted Clause 4.1 and 4.2, which requires organizations to evaluate whether climate change is a relevant issue and to recognize that interested parties may have climate-related requirements that must be addressed within the organization's management system. The release of the amendment required immediate implementation into management systems, specifically ISO 9001, 14001, and 45001. ISO 19011-2018, the guidance did not include any requirement for considering climate change during the audit planning or in the audit program. ISO 19011-2025 introduces a requirement to evaluate the use of technology and digital tools across the audit program, including audit planning and audit risk analysis. You'll find updates in the 2025 version related to new technology in the context of auditing practices by referencing new and emerging technologies in the following ways: remote auditing and ICT use. 2025 version emphasizes the use of information and communication technology, known as ICT, in audit processes and further recognizes advances in remote auditing tools such as cloud-based platforms, video conferencing, drones, and wearable technology. Greater reliance on data analytics and artificial intelligence to support audit planning, risk assessment, and audit sampling, and the importance of auditor competency with digital tools and cybersecurity awareness. References to remote auditing and ICT use can be found in Clause 5 of 2025, Managing an Audit Program, Clause 6, Conducting an Audit, and in Annex A16. Digital transformation and audit competency in 2025 includes updates to auditor competency requirements explicitly with understanding digital transformation in organizations, being able to evaluate automated systems, AI-based decision-making, and digitally integrated management systems. Additionally, auditor competence in assessing cybersecurity, data privacy, and digital risk management. References to digital transformation and auditor competency are addressed in the Clause 7 under Competency and Evaluation of Auditors and Annex B, Discipline-Specific Knowledge and Skills for Auditors. Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning. The 2025 version makes contextual references to the audit of systems utilizing AI and machine learning, especially in risk-based thinking and evaluating non-traditional autonomous decision-making systems. The suggestion is that auditors are encouraged to understand how AI systems affect process control, compliance to any statutory regulatory requirements, and risk. Cybersecurity and data integrity. The 2025 version notes the importance of auditing for data integrity, data sources, and access control. Auditors are to be able to assess cybersecurity controls as part of the management system. These requirements are referenced in clauses involved with risk-based approach and the context of the organization. In contrast, the 2018 version only references to technology in a general or indirect manner and does not explicitly address its application in audit planning or risk analysis. ISO 19011-2025 draft expands the use of risk-based approach throughout audit planning, audit program implementation, and audit reporting. Additionally, the draft requires alignment of high-risk areas, including management system performance, audit planning, and audit program implementation phases. The 2025 version encourages auditors to consider both risks and opportunities when auditing. Risk is viewed not only as a negative factor to an organization, but also can be considered a promoter for opportunity and innovation. The draft includes updated guidance for managing an audit program based on risk priority as applicable to audit frequencies, audit scope and objectives, the competency of auditors, and the use of remote virtual tools. The 2025 draft version, addresses the application of technology in risk-based auditing, recognizing that AI, data analytics, and automation tools can support risk identification and prioritization. References the use of digital tools for risk ranking and trend analysis. The new version expands Annex A to include practical guidance and examples for applying risk-based approach to determine audit priorities, apply sampling techniques in high-risk processes, manage audit evidence in complex high-risk environments. Additionally, risk-based sampling and audit trail selection is more of a prominent feature in the draft. The ISO 2025 draft expects auditors to be able to cross-link risks to the context of the organization, addressing internal and external issues affecting the organization, interested party expectations, and any changes in statutory or regulatory environments. Auditor competency in the 2025 version includes auditors' ability to identify emerging risks, such as climate-related, AI-driven, or cybersecurity threats. Evaluate risk controls or mitigation for effectiveness. Understand industry or sector-specific risks. In comparison to the 2018 version, which introduced risk-based approach, but had less emphasis on the operations of the organization. The 2025 draft version of 19,011 provides greater emphasis on factors such as the audit program integrity, observer participation, and data security. A summary of changes to the audit programs in the new draft include: 1, stronger emphasis on risk-based planning. Audit programs are to be strategically aligned with the organization's risks and objectives. More emphasis on prioritizing audits based on areas of high risk, complexity, and compliance requirements. The new language in 2025 underscores the need for adaptive audit frequency and scope based on evolving risk levels. 2, greater flexibility and adaptability. Audit programs are now expected to be flexible and responsible to changes such as emerging risks, new regulations, changes in technology or business processes. 3, enhanced use of technology. The new version acknowledges increased reliance on ICT, including remote auditing tools, data analytics, AI-based tools for audit scheduling and analysis. Organizations are encouraged to integrate digital tools into the audit program design, including monitoring. Number 4, focus on the audit program objectives. The new draft requires clear definition of the audit program objectives, which need to be aligned with the organizational goals, compliance requirements, and stakeholder expectations. Organizations need to ensure audit programs are adding value. Number 5, competency-based auditor assignments. Audit program managers should consider interdisciplinary skills, not just management system expertise, when assigning auditors. Number 6, more structural planning review and review cycle for the audit programs, with the use of performance indicators and risk assessments. 19,011-2018 covers similar topics with the less defined structure of the audit programs. The 2025 version of 19,011 modified structure and terminology by deleting and redefining, as well as adding some of the terms and definitions for more clarity. Some of the newer revised terms and definitions include remote auditing methods and virtual location. In comparison to the 2018 version, which addressed customary management system standards, terminology, and structure, but had minimal references to new technologies and environments. Annex A of the 19,011-2025 version has been significantly updated to reflect modern audit practices, especially considering the increase of use of technology, the evolving risk landscapes, and the integrated management systems. This annex provides guidance on auditing techniques and now includes expanded examples to support auditors in practical application. The next section of this webinar is going to cover changes to the ISO 19,011-2025 forward. 19,011-2025 expanded the guidance of remote auditing methods with the introduction of the ISO IEC TS 17012 guidelines. This guideline is intended to strengthen confidence in the use of remote auditing methods for auditing management systems among customers, regulators, accreditation bodies, certification bodies, scheme owners, industry employees, consumers, suppliers, and other interested parties. The ISO 17012 guideline is based on 19,011, uses the same management system structure headings, and then complements 19,011 by specifying guidelines for the use of remote methods for each clause. Annex A of 17012 defines the requirements for two types of remote audits: fully remote, and hybrid blended audits. Annex B of 17012 provides useful practices to manage audit programs and conducting audits. So what is ISO 17012-2024? It provides detailed guidance of the effective use of remote auditing methods for both internal and external audits of management systems. It's applicable to all organizations that plan, manage, or conduct audits using remote auditing techniques. This guideline supplements the audit principles outlined in 1911, offering specific recommendations on prerequisites, enablers, constraints, and contextual considerations necessary for the appropriate implementation of remote auditing. It addresses aspects such as auditor competency, technology requirements, data security, communication effectiveness, and audit integrity in remote settings. The objective of this standard is to promote consistent, transparent, and confident application of remote auditing methods amongst key stakeholders, including clients, regulatory authorities, accreditation and certification bodies, industry groups, suppliers, and other interested parties. Section 3 of this webinar is going to cover the updates to terms and definitions in the draft 19,011-2025. The most significant changes to terms and definitions in 19,011-2025 includes 3.4 remote auditing methods, 3.8 audit criteria, and 3.17 technical expert. Remote auditing under 3.4 is defined as used for conducting audit activities at any place other than the location of the auditee. 2 notes have been added. Note 1, remote auditing methods can be used in combination with on-site methods to achieve a full and effective audit. And note 2 states remote auditing methods can be used for virtual locations, for example, where an organization performs work or provides a service using an online environment, enabling individuals to execute processes irrespective of their physical location. Technical expert has been modified. It is defined as a person who provides specific knowledge or expertise to the audit team. There are 2 notes applicable to this term. Note 1, specific knowledge or expertise relates to the organization, the activity, process, product, service, discipline to be audited, or language or culture. Note 2, a technical expert to the audit team does not act as an auditor. And lastly, 3.8, audit criteria. That has been modified to define a set of requirements used as a reference against which the objective evidence is compared. Note 1 has been added to audit criteria if the audit criteria is legal, including statutory or regulatory requirements. The words compliance or non-compliance are often used in relation to audit findings. Section 4 is going to cover the Clause 4 principles of auditing, the updates associated with the 19,011-2025 version. Auditing relies on 7 key principles to ensure the audits are effective and reliable and support the management system policies and controls. The principles help provide actionable information for improving organizational performance. For an audit to be meaningful, auditors must adhere to these principles, ensuring that their audit conclusions are relevant, sufficient, and consistent, even when working independently. The 7 audit principles remain the same, and they include integrity, fair presentation, due professional care, confidentiality, independence, evidence-based approach, and risk-based approach. Updates were made to 3 of these 7 auditing principles in the new standard, the 2025 draft. So there's updates to integrity, confidentiality, and risk-based approach. Integrity is the foundation of professionalism. Auditors and those responsible for the audit program need to conduct their work ethically and demonstrate honesty and accountability. They need to undertake their auditing tasks only when they possess the required competency, maintain impartiality and ensure fairness and objectivity in the interactions, and remain aware of and resistant to any external influences that may compromise their judgment during audits. Confidentiality is the protection of information. Auditors must exercise sound judgment in handling and safeguarding of information obtained through the audit process. And risk-based approach is balancing risks and opportunities. This approach involves incorporating risk and opportunity considerations into the audit planning and execution. It should guide the development and implementation of the audit program, as well as the planning, the conduct of the audit, and the reporting of audits. The goal is to ensure audits are aligned with what is most significant to the audit client or to the auditee and contribute to achieving the audit program objectives. Section 5 covers any updates or modifications to Clause 5, managing the audit program. The audit program should be appropriately scaled based on the size and complexity of the organization. This is referenced in 19,011-2025, Clause 5.1. The recent updates require that audit programs consider climate change as a relevant factor and the use of technology and digital tools. Additionally, the audit program should include defined objectives for the audit, selected audit methods, including the use of remote audit techniques, criteria for the audit team selection, including the roles of the audit team leader and auditors, and where necessary, technical experts. Criteria for involving observers and other relevant parties. Considerations of the organization's internal and external context when planning and conducting the audits. Lastly, the audit program must be evaluated and assessed for effectiveness. Clause 5.2, establishing audit program objectives in 19,011-2025 draft, describes additional considerations when establishing the audit program objectives, including management system requirements and those differing specific requirements covered during a combined audit, and the evaluation of the supply chain. 19,011-2025 draft, under Clause 5.3, determining and evaluating audit program risks and opportunities. There are risks and opportunities related to the audit program that can affect achieving the audit objectives that have been established. The party responsible for managing the audit program should identify risks and opportunities to be addressed. Risks can be associated with 1, planning, failing to set the relevant audit objectives and scheduling audits. 2, resources, the loss of auditors, insufficient time to conduct the audits effectively, and not obtaining sufficient evidence to support the audit findings and results. Selection of the audit team based on competency, impartiality, and independence. And lastly, the auditee's cooperation and availability of evidence during the audit. ISO 19,011-2025 version under 5.4, establishing audit program. There were updates to the 5.4.1 subclause under roles and responsibilities of individuals managing the audit program. Those responsible for managing the audit program should additionally establish all relevant processes for 1, determining the audit objective, the audit scope, and the audit criteria for each audit, determining the audit methods to be used during audits, selecting the audit team, and then evaluating auditor competency. In the 19,011-2025 draft version, 5.6 remained basically the same, with the addition of changes to the supply chain or organization part of the supply chain to be included in factors that should be considered or could indicate the need to modify the audit program. Section 6 is going to cover the changes in 19,011-2025 in relation to Clause 6, conducting the audit. Under 19,011-2025 draft version 6.4, conducting audit activities, there were updates to 6.43, conducting opening meetings. During the opening meeting, inputs have been added as appropriate that include the word auditing under the methods to manage risks to the organization from the audit activities or presence of audit team members. And the next is the audit evidence to be collected through the sampling process. Under 19,011-2025 draft version, Clause 6.4.8, generating audit findings, there was updates to the language. Audit findings can indicate conformity or nonconformity, and they added to the audit criteria. The criteria used to grade nonconformities needs to be defined, and there was a note added. Note 1, if the audit criteria is selected from statutory or regulatory requirements, an audit finding is termed as compliance or non-compliance versus conformance or non-conformance. There was an update to Clause 6.5.1, preparing audit reports in the new 19,011-2025 draft. The audit report should provide a complete, accurate, concise, and clear record of the audit, and they added using specific report formats when required, and should include or refer to the following, which they added audit objectives. Section 7 of this webinar is going to cover the updates to Clause 7 in 19,011-2025, determining auditor competency. 19,011-2025, Clause 7.2, determining auditor competency. Changes were made to subclause 7.2.1, general. When deciding auditor competency, the auditor knowledge and skill levels to be considered should include the audit methods to be used, including their use, the auditor's use of technology to conduct the audit, and auditing technology-based processes. In addition, they added methods used for evaluating risks and opportunities to determining auditor competency. The 19,011-2025 version for 7.2.3.2, generic knowledge and skills of management system auditors, they added, an auditor should be able to understand the appropriateness and consequences of using emerging technology in conducting the audit. For example, artificial intelligence-based evaluation tools. And second, achieve the intended results of the audit regardless of the audit methods utilized. Under Section 8 of this webinar, we're going to cover the updates to Annex A, which is known as the additional guidance for auditors for planning and conducting audits. 19,011-2025, Annex A, A1, applying audit methods. The additions include the feasibility of remote auditing activities can depend on several factors, And they give examples, the level of risk to achieving the audit objectives, the level of confidence between the auditor and auditee's personnel, and regulatory requirements. They also reference the additional guidance of remote auditing methods in Annex A16 and in ISO IEC TS 1712 conformity assessment, the guidelines for using remote auditing methods in audit management systems. They provide a link, and I'm not sure if this is going to remain in the annex, but there's a link to the Auditing Practices Group, APG, papers for the ISO TC 176 Committee on Auditing Practices. Under A2 in Annex A of 19,011-2025, it was updated to read a management system comprises of organizational policies and objectives together with processes to achieve those objectives. Auditing a management system is largely auditing an organization's processes and their interactions in relation to one or more management system standards. Auditors should understand that interrelated processes need to function as a coherent system if consistent and predictable results are to be achieved. A7, auditing compliance with a management system, was updated in Annex A of the 19,011-2025 version with the statement of when statutory or regulatory requirements are audit criteria. The audit team should consider if the auditee has effective processes for identifying its statutory regulatory requirements or other requirements it is committed to, managing its activities, products, and services to achieve compliance with these requirements, and evaluating its compliance status. There was a significant addition to Annex A under A12 in ISO 19,011-2025, which reads the audit of the supply chain to specific requirements may be required. The supply chain audit program should be developed with applicable audit criteria for the type of organizations which are part of the supply chain. The scope of the supply chain audit can differ. For example, it can be a complete management system audit, a single process audit, a product audit, or a configuration audit. Additionally, under A12, audit of supply chain, ISO 19,011-2025 defined second-party audits. Second-party audits may be carried out by the organization or other organizations which are part of the supply chain on supplied products or services, on conditions of supply, such as contracts and purchase orders, or against any other agreed criteria relevant to the relationship between the two organizations. Second-party audits can be conducted by the organization or on behalf of the organization. Second-party audits are typically conducted to identify and quantify the nature and extent of risks before entering into a supply contract, to ensure processes are being operated by organizations which are part of the supply chain, as agreed, and to carry out surveillance audit to determine continual conformity or improve performance. They may also be used to determine whether goods or services purchased or to be purchased have been ethically produced to a desired level of quality. Fully auditing a supply chain from the evaluation of raw material producers through a final delivery of the organization's products or services is likely to require audit activity at multiple locations and the involvement of multiple organizations. And continuing, second-party audits may be scheduled within the audit program or may be initiated in response to a specific failure in the supply chain or potential opportunity arising as a result in the change of the organization's context. 19,011-2025 A15, visiting the auditee's location. Conducting the audit on site before taking copies of documented information in any media. Ask for permission in advance and consider confidentiality and security matters. Conducting the audit remotely. Ensure the audit team is using agreed remote auditing methods, including the use of appropriate technology. Before taking screenshot copies of documents of any kind, ask for permission in advance and consider confidentiality and security matters, and avoid recording individuals without their permission. If an incident occurs during the use of remote auditing methods, the audit team leader should review the situation with the auditee and take appropriate action. Considerations need to be given to disposition of information and audit evidence, irrespective of the type of media and the methods used, whether on-site or remotely. A16 has been updated using remote auditing methods. Remote audit methods are the methods used for conducting audit activities from any place other than the location of the auditee. Applying remote auditing methods can bring a variety of benefits for both the auditor and auditee. When remote auditing methods are used, if it is a joint responsibility of the auditee and the auditors to ensure the audit is effectively conducted and the audit objectives are achieved. An audit using remote auditing methods uses technology during the audit process, for example, for observing, interviewing, and verification of objective evidence. Continuing with the updates to A16 using remote audit methods, the updates include the auditee and audit team should ensure the availability of appropriate resources when using remote audit methods. This may include knowledge and skills needed to effectively conduct the audit remotely. When using remote audit methods, additional considerations may include data security and management, confidentiality, and the need for a contingency plan due to technology failure. The use of remote auditing methods may introduce additional risks and opportunities to the audit process. And then for detailed considerations on using remote audit methods through the audit process, see ISO IEC TS 17012. So what are the next steps to prepare for the release of 19,011-2025 and transition your audit program? First of all, obtain a copy of the FDIS, the final draft, which is expected to be released at the end of 2025, September of 2025. Train your audit program responsible parties, your audit team, including your lead auditors. Conduct a gap analysis of your current audit program to the new requirements. Communicate those changes to any other relevant interested parties. Conduct an audit program risk analysis and establish measurable objectives, and then implement those changes to your audit program and your audit processes. In summary, 19,011 ensures effective audits through a structured and principle-based approach, emphasizing competency, consistency, and objectivity. 1. Risk-based approach. ISO 19,011-2025 encourages auditors to focus on areas of high risk and greater significance to the organization to ensure all audits are more impactful, and consider strategic goals when assessing performance to the established objectives. Number 2, auditing principles. They help maintain the credibility and the reliability of audit results. There are 7 principles. They have not changed. They include integrity, fair presentation, due professional care, confidentiality, independence, evidence-based approach, and risk-based thinking. 3, competency of auditors. 19,011-2025 emphasizes that auditors must have the appropriate knowledge, skills, and personal attributes. It provides guidance on evaluating and improving auditor competency, which directly affects audit quality. Number 4, audit planning and preparation. 19,011 requires thorough audit planning to ensure audits are systematic and focused by defining the individual audit objectives, scope, and criteria, selecting competent auditors and teams, and preparing audit plans considering audit risks. Number 5, the execution of the audit process. 19,011 outlines a structured process for conducting audits to ensure consistent and thoroughness that includes opening meetings, gathering and verifying information, interviewing personnel, observing activities, and reviewing documentation. Reporting and follow-up. 19,011 specifies that audit findings should be reported clearly and objectively with effective follow-up on corrective actions, ensuring that actions taken to address issues are effectively implemented to ensure continual improvement. And then 7, continual improvement. 19,011 encourages organizations use your audit outcomes to identify trends and opportunities for improvement, not just conformance. This contributes to the overall effectiveness and efficiency of your management systems. So in summary, the key changes in the draft 19,011-2025 is enhanced emphasis on risk-based thinking, digital and remote audit guidance, including expanded content on remote audits and the use of ICT, which is information and communication technologies, sustainability and ESG integration, new references to environmental, social, and government factors, encouragement to align audits with broader sustainable goals and stakeholder expectations. 4, auditor competence and behavioral skills is another key change in the 19,011-2025 draft. There needs to be greater focus on auditor behaviors such as adaptability, cultural sensitivity, and ethical awareness. Additional guidance on evaluating and developing competencies to meet audit challenges in today's changing technology landscape. Number 5, audit program management improvements. More detailed guidance on developing and managing risk-based audit programs and conducting risk-based audits. Encouragement to link audit program objectives to the organizational strategic priorities or the organizational objectives. And then the annex updates and expansion. The updates to Annex A, including expanded guidance examples of risks related to auditing, including remote audits, and possibly additional annexes or expanded examples to address remote auditing scenarios or emerging standards. This concludes the review of ISO 19,011-2025 draft. I want to thank you for joining me for this review and hope that the information I shared with you in this webinar has provided you with valuable information on how these changes are going to affect your current audit program. As a next step, I encourage you to review Elcometer Education Institute's website at www.elcometeredu.com for more information about the Exemplar Global Certified courses we offer, as well as upcoming information on the release of the standards that are under review. Many of them are ISO 9000, ISO 14000, as well as ISO 19,011. Our instructors are experienced third-party management system auditors with experience and expertise in various industries and how to apply these standards to your organization. We share our knowledge and our course content in our course delivery. Courses are available virtually. Those are instructor-led live courses and through a self-study learning platform for those that may have some scheduling conflicts. We also offer customized client courses based on the industries that they serve and their needs. If you have any questions or would like more information, please call our team today at 248-650-0500 or email us at training@elcometerusa.com. Once again, thank you for your participation, and we look forward to connecting with you in the future.